some things that he's very concerned and unnerved by the potential pick of Rex Tillerson as state, given the Russia ties. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Buck, given your experience at the CIA, talk to me about what position this puts incoming CIA Director Mike Pompeo in. You know, if he comes in, he is coming in, and a lot of the same folks work for him that work for the current CIA Director, and Donald Trump is saying, I don't trust what you say you found, what does he do?
Well, Donald Trump is saying he doesn't agree with the CIA on this one bit of information, which obviously is very politicized. There is the reality of Russian hacking.
Why is it obviously very politicized?
I was about to say, there's the reality of the hacking that occurred that most people for months, by the way, have known or believed, at least with high confidence, that Russia was behind. And then there's the motive behind it specifically, was this to help Donald Trump? That hasn't actually come out from the IC in any kind of official report. That's just from sources reported on.
It is what the CIA believes. It is not what all of the intelligence officials believe.
The CIA is one of 16 intelligence agencies, and also, by the way, the CIA is not officially saying that. The Washington Post has reported on sources who are unnamed from within the agency who are making that claim, and it was also reported in the same Washington Post article. Not everyone in the CIA who's looked at that agrees with that assessment, and that jump is critical here. But I'm sorry?
You're saying not everyone in the CIA agrees with that assessment. Has someone told you that?
I can tell you that in every assessment that's ever written in the CIA of any significance, there's somebody who disagrees.
So you're making an assumption there.
No, the Washington Post reporting itself has said that this isn't a unanimous consensus opinion within the CIA. There's no, and they're talking to a few sources from inside that are saying this. But if that is in fact the case, then we should be allowed to know. I do think there should be an investigation here. I think the facts should come out. It is troubling that Russia has tried to interfere, or I should say did interfere in the U.S. election. But this is all being used as part of a much broader narrative to undermine the Trump administration before it takes day one in office. That's what this is here. And that's why everyone recognizes it.
And I'll get back to you, Ron. Betsy, let me get you in here, because here's how the president-elect put it in an interview this morning with Chris Wallace.
They have no idea if it's Russia or China or somebody. It could be somebody sitting in a bed someplace. It could be Russia. I don't really think it is, but who knows? I don't know either. They don't know, and I don't know.
He's saying they don't know. Betsy, do you think that that assessment or the trust and the veracity of information will change once his guy is leading the CIA?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer. That said, it's certainly unprecedented and extraordinary that Trump would say the CIA doesn't know that Russia may have been involved in these hacks, when, broadly speaking, the intelligence community has come to the consensus that Russian government actors were connected to the hacking of this information. That's not particularly controversial, and it's extraordinary that Trump would suggest the opposite is true. It's baffling, and it's something that I think is going to cause problems for him going forward. I think, to Buck's point about the idea that this entire investigation, the bipartisan calls for an investigation, are part of a narrative to undermine Donald Trump, I think we have to be really careful suggesting that there are certain news stories that don't deserve coverage because those stories might have the effect of making people ask important questions about the way our elections get handled. That said, of course, I think it's unlikely that the Russian hacking actually swayed the outcome of the election. Hillary Clinton's top staffers say they believe a big part of the reason she lost momentum was because of James Comey's decision to reopen the investigation into her email situation. Of course, James Comey is not a Russian mole. That said, of course, this is a really complicated story. It's a really important story. It has massive implications for us as a country.
And I don't think Buck is suggesting, and Buck, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not suggesting this shouldn't be covered. What you're saying is you believe it's politicized.
It's ridiculous. It's part of a larger narrative that is obviously politicized because, once again, it has gone beyond the facts. People are conflating two things. Russian interference in the election is not the same as impact in the election, by the way, which even the people, some of the loudest voices on this have been saying it probably didn't actually change the outcome. They can't provide any evidence to that fact. And then also that Russia specifically wanted Trump to win as opposed to just undermining our electoral process. That is an additional leap that is not supported by the intelligence community reporting on this. And between fake news, the Russian interference in the election, the FBI director, at some point, I think it would just be best for the left to accept that they lost this election because they had an imperfect candidate who couldn't get it done. That would be better for all of America.
You've got senators in your own party who are saying, you know, this needs to be investigated.
But they're not making those additional leaps. They're not the ones that are saying that this is meant for, this isn't the Kremlin determining our elections. If you look at what's being said on the internet,